Hello, class. Hope this message finds you well. We're getting close to the end of the semester, so I'm sure your stress level is really high. The students I talk to, I must say, I do remember acutely how like stressful exams are. I still have a reoccurring dream that I'm in a final exam, and so I mean, it's kind of a weird thing, that still holds to me, even now, and I haven't been a student for quite some time, but I still remember it acutely. How the finals felt. So please look after yourself. But I do want to talk about this article though, and I must say I read this article and I mean, first of all, it struck me because, like, okay, we're learning about taste, and I want to talk a little bit about knowledge and what we know and what we understand. And part of it was it. I mean, part of this is what it means to be human. I mean, right? Because generally speaking, all humans hate the bitter taste. I mean, we can kind of have an acquired taste to certain bitter things, like the hop level in an IPA beer, for instance. But generally speaking, the bitter taste, and it's disgusting. I mean, when bitter basically is a taste for humans that's poison, and bitter, generally speaking, is also alkaline. So generally speaking, alkaline things taste bitter, and bitter things are poisonous. I mean, so some people like caffeine. I'm a weird person. I don't take caffeine, but caffeine is poisonous. It's really poisonous. And I mean, if you look at like a strong cup of coffee has something on the order of 100 milligrams of caffeine. 100 milligrams, that's a small amount of caffeine. So, right, if you're taking like large amounts of caffeine, it will kill you because it's poisonous and it tastes bitter. So this kind of thing. So generally speaking, bitter taste is a bad taste. All humans like sweet. All humans like salty. All humans, generally speaking, don't like sour or bitter taste. I mean, like, because sour kind of is like unripened fruit. So we kind of evolved to not like the sour taste of things, and we don't like bitter things because they're poisonous. And I mean, you can kind of start to like them, like conditionally, but generally speaking, like I said, we don't like bitter things. And so to me, it's surprising that something like taste, we don't entirely understand. We didn't even know we didn't understand everything about taste. And that's the other thing, is like, oh, we thought we understood it, but it turns out we don't. Kind of thing. That's quite a bit of a turnaround there. And so, what does it mean to have knowledge? And like I said, if you read through this article, I don't know if you read these articles, but there's a lot of technical terms here. And much of this talks about how, so if you see our a ligand is, it's when you have a center, usually a transition metal, but you have a center and then things bind around that center, and that's what a ligand is. In this case, it's all hydrocarbons. So in cholesterol, if you talk about the chemistry thing, it talks a little bit here about that, about the hydrophilic versus hydrophobic, and I do talk about this in these classes. So generally speaking, things tend to be water soluble or polar soluble. Polar things mix, or they tend to be fat soluble, or the molecules that are not polar. So and dealing with this and the solubility rules and how things interact using the electrostatic forces. That's how much of this talks about this, and it doesn't really. I mean, that's what's implied with the article. But I mean, we do talk about that quite in the class. But you see all these technical terms here. But the reason, even though I'm sending you this article, and many of these things don't necessarily, may not click to you at this level. And it was a little bit of a hard read for me, and I mean, it's a short article, but I was like, wow, this is a lot. I have to read this carefully, and I have a PhD in chemistry, kind of thing. So, but what I wanted to impress upon you is knowledge, and what knowledge is, and how we know things, and what it means to have knowledge. So, and especially when we do biochemistry. So, one of the faults of the field of biochemistry is that when we study something, we take it outside of the cell. So in biochemistry, we look at things in really small quantities and we separate it from the cell. And the question is, does does it really function outside of the cell versus inside of the cell? And that's one of those things we don't know. We really don't know. And with this, and this is one of those things like, oh, when it comes to human taste, we thought we kind of understood taste, and I mean, taste is an olfactory system. And a lot of smell comes into taste, but we also have taste buds on our tongues. And there are some things that we call taste, but they're not really taste, like spice. So capsaicin, for instance, is a spicy molecule, and capsaicin is actually a pain signal. And we have studied taste a little bit because of space travel, because it's really hard to taste things without gravity. And generally speaking, like astronauts that travel to places, like now most of our astronauts and cosmonauts, if you're in Russia, are in the International Space Station. And one of the things that they demand is spicy food. So they can taste spice, but pretty much all these other tastes that we have, we can't taste, or we can't really taste in space. And a lot of astronauts, they come home, they want salads and vegetables. That's like the thing that I want to eat salad. After being in space, all I want to do now is eat salad. So I mean, that's kind of I had a dream of becoming an astronaut. So I don't think I'm probably not going to be an astronaut. I mean, among the things, I probably weigh too much. But I mean, I did have I still have a dream of being an astronaut, kind of thing. Maybe they'll send me to the moon. Who knows? Maybe you want them to send me to the moon. Who knows? We're close to the end of the semester, right? So we'll see. So knowledge. How do we know things, and what does it mean to know things? And this was an interesting thing, like I said, because we didn't know this. So that's kind of cool. And it's when it comes to science and just in general, like, we don't know what we don't know, and we will always find things that we will always have questions. And that's one of the things I love about science, because I mean, partially for me, I am a very curious person. I'm always very curious, and that's kind of what gravitated me towards natural science, and specifically chemistry, because chemistry is studying matter, and matter makes up a lot. I mean, that's one of the big questions, of the universe, is what does matter do, and that's what we're learning here in chemistry, right? So, but I mean, I'm not trying to knock other fields. I mean, they're all amazing, and not even STEM fields. They're all amazing as well. But I tend to be chemistry centric, and this is a chemistry course, so please forgive me on that. But this is interesting. This hit me because, like I said, this is like, what is knowledge, and surprising knowledge, and not only that, like how we know things, and I mean, there are some things that we know extremely well. I mean, and like, so, like atomic theory. I mean, we're pretty sure, that stuff is made of atoms, and that the ultimate particle of an element is an atom. We really, that's something that's very strong knowledge, and that's a solid foundation. And like and like another example, the germ theory of disease. We understand that pathogens that are microorganisms are the primary cause of disease. That's something that's pretty well understood, and like, I like things, like the rhinovirus causes a cold. That's something that's really understood. You don't get a cold from being cold, and malaria is not caused by bad air. It's caused by the protozoa. I don't know the name of it, but it comes from the mosquito bites, right? So we understand, that's where things come from. So where diseases come from. So there's some things we understand very well, but as you go closer and closer to things, and there's some things that we don't understand it, and it's so simple. Like fire is something we do not completely understand. And understanding fire is a really difficult problem. And people spend their lives studying a really minute part of fire. And now we have another thing like taste. People are studying a really minute thing that comes to taste. And the other scary thing is we don't even know if it's true, because how we're studying it, we've taken these biomolecules outside of it. So does taste work in my mouth the same way that taste works in a lab? And that we don't know. And we kind of move forward thinking like, okay, well, the chemistry seems to work out. And I must say the chemistry for this probably works out, because I am a mammal, and mammals, one of the things that is relatively common among mammals in our cell membranes is the molecule cholesterol. So if cholesterol fits in here and it fit in the lab, it probably fits that way in our mouths too. So when we taste, I think, as my opinion, is that this is probably true. But then again, how do we prove this? And how could we prove this? And I mean, we could prove it. We could put radioactive carbon 14 or like put radioactive tritium on cholesterol and then have people eat it or put it on their tongues and then kind of do a sensory with that. That would be an easy way to do it. We could maybe do single molecule spectroscopy, which is kind of hard to do. I mean, of course, the person, like, you have to stand really still while the laser hits your tongue, kind of thing. So, I mean, we could use our technology right now to understand this. Of course, I personally wouldn't sign up to say, hey, why don't you put some radioactive stuff in your mouth to see if cholesterol really is in your bitter sense, kind of thing. Like, I don't know if I want to volunteer for this kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it's, but that's how we could do it. And so I don't know. Hopefully this this soliloquy on this, on something simple as this, drives you forward as you're cramming knowledge into your brains right now as you're preparing for the final exams, and hopefully hopefully you don't lose sight of the curiosity, the insatiable curiosity of us humans with this, and hopefully that's not too much of a bitter taste for you per se. So. But I did mention finals, and of course, when we're under stress like this, a lot of things that come to the forefront. So if you personally are having some mental health issues, if you're not having your basic needs met, how are you going to do well in your finals if you can't get food or shelter? How are you going to do well in your finals if you're just suffering from all these other issues? So if you have any of these issues, please let me know. I will do what I can to help out. Of course, I hope that you're very well and hope that you are not having these issues. And please look after yourselves as finals are coming. And we're not there yet, but we're close to finals. So do what you can. Try and be happy. Try and be healthy as much as you can, because like with the winter is coming. The finals are coming up. They're really really close. So take care. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week and weekend, and I will talk to you next week. Aloha.